Well, hey everybody, Wes McDonald here at GoWest.ai with my good friend Randy Dazo at Keypoint Intelligence. And so excited to be doing the show again with you, Randy. It's funny.
Yeah, same here too. So excited. I mean, it's been a little while,
It has been,
but
yeah.
we're back.
But all good things in time, right? And
That's right.
I was thinking, it's funny, muscle memory, I have to be careful because I was thinking of actually saying Randy and West with assessments and insights. And that's not the name of the show anymore. So what's the new name of the program?
AI Connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone should have seen that on on LinkedIn. We've got some of that stuff going, and certainly excited to really talk about the connections that AI brings all of us. Right, that I think it's really evolved as we have with how we use AI and how we help our partners with AI as well. Right. So myself, Wes McDonald, for those that haven't seen me or met me, I've been in the channel. I'll put that in air quotes because that's obviously changed quite a bit lately. I don't know, probably for the last 22 years, which ages me a little bit, and did a shift into artificial intelligence about 2.5 years ago, and excited actually to be partnering with Keypoint Intelligence on that initiative as well. So Randy, maybe over to you for a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, this is Randy Dazo here, and everyone knows Wes McDonald. Maybe not some people know me, Randy Dazo, but I'm at Keypoint Intelligence, Chief Operations, Product, and Strategy Officer here. And at Keypoint Intelligence, for those of you who don't know who we are the premier digital peripherals analyst, consulting, testing, and as well AI consulting firm for the printer digital peripherals industry, basically.
Love it. Well, really good to be back with you, man.
Yeah, same here too.
One of the things that we like to do is, let us know where you're watching from, right? So as you leave your comments and questions, for those that are, tuned in, where are you watching from? Let us know, right? So I'll start things off. I am joining you from Canada, just across the border in lovely Crystal Beach, Ontario, right across the water from Buffalo, New York. And how about you, Randy?
Well, you would think that I'm actually in a very cold location since I'm still in a sweatshirt, but we're here in Fairfield, New Jersey, where I think we have a new season called rainy season. And yeah, it's been raining for like the past 2 months now, and it's too cold for me. So, but yep, Fairfield, New Jersey.
Awesome. And it has been the same here, just so you don't feel so bad or left out, right? That we've had the most awful June I can remember on record, feeling very much like fall. And hey, listen, if you've got comments and questions as well as letting us know where you're watching from, we'd love to see them. And one of the first things that we do before we bring in our guests, and I do want to show you just very quickly, who we're going to be having in today, if I can remember how to work this screen. Let's see here. Oh, look at that. Eh? So we've got John Evans joining us from Impact Networking, and Mr. Thomas Cooper from OEM Connect. And potentially, we may see him in chat more than anything. Chip Miceli, he said if he could make it, he would. He's actually at the BTA conference right now with a bunch of other folks. So we may or may not see him today. So we'll be bringing those folks in just a moment. And looks like we do have some comments coming in before we get to the news. So Anna says, tuning in from Chicago, Illinois. Absolutely love Chicago, though. Thanks for joining us there. And Randy, we're truly international now this morning. We have Charles Linsberg joining in from Amsterdam. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us here. And of course, the one, the only, Nancy Byrne, joining us from Norwell. Great to have you, and great to work on this program with you, Nancy. And of course, our good friend and AI enthusiast, and I like to call him a near futurist, Mr. Greg Walters. He might disagree with me, but I think he is. And Detroit in the USA. Great. Looks like we also have Zubia in from Milwaukee in Wisconsin. Enunciate, Wesley. And Greg says, I can also claim Oka. No, I will not try to pronounce it. I have seen him join in from there. So yes, I appreciate that. I think he did it on purpose just to get a laugh. I love it. Well, great to have you all. And let's see here. All right. And as I mentioned, it's been a while since I've done one of these, so it's going to be a little weird. Yeah, and the first thing is these AI connectors. And as I shared in an article that I wrote actually for another magazine, and Randy, as you and I have spoken about, I know our guests will probably have some things to say about this as well, right? So before I go into the news, though, I'm actually going to bring our guests in and they can join us on this because we were actually pre-show, kind of talking about this, a little bit, right? So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guests. And good to see you, John Evans, Mr. Thomas Cooper. How are you?
Yeah, great to see you guys. Glad to be back.
Doing great, Wes. Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for coming back. And, that's the thing about this inaugural episode, right? We wanted to make sure that we did have some, guests and some folks that we've worked with in the, in the past to, come on the show because, boy, has a lot changed, in the last. Yeah, John's like, nah.
I feel like we're moving at the speed of like hypersound or something.
Yeah.
It's too fast.
Yeah, so before we get into the news, though, maybe just a brief introduction. And Tom, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Tom Cooper. I'm the CEO and president of OEM Connect in Massachusetts. We are a purchaser of surplus copier supplies, a wholesaler of discount OEM copier supplies, and now recently electronics as well. So we're taking back end of life laptops and PCs, doing data wiping, all NIST 880 compliant. And I've been in the channel now. You got a few years on me, Wes, but I think about 15 years. So you can tell by the grace. That's me, Tom Cooper.
You're starting.
Nice to meet you guys.
I love it. Well, welcome back. And John, over to you.
Yeah, my name is John Evans. I'm the Chief AI Officer at Impact Networking. Impact Networking is a managed service provider across several states here in the U.S., from Indianapolis all the way, well, actually now Ohio, all the way out on the east side, all the way west to Los Angeles. And yeah, I've been in technology kind of on the emerging side since the .com days. So it's been a little bit. That's pales in comparison to my gray, I think, to yours, Tom. But we're so we're currently undertaking not only our own internal AI transformation, but also getting it out to people in our mid-market space. So
I love it.
Yeah,
as we all should be, doing at this point, right? Sharing those learning as they happen. So really appreciate you being on here today. For everyone else, make sure you do leave your comments and questions. And where are you watching from? We've had quite a few. Let us know that today, but we'd love to see them, in the comments section as well. Yeah, so AI connectors. Just let me bring up a page here. Just looking at why not go right to the source and look at connectors in ChatGPT. I love that they've got this big, bold, yellow emblazoned note talking about the fact that this feature is currently in beta, right? And just making it very clear from the, the top that, kind of this is what's, what's happening, right? And it certainly is in beta. I think everyone's had a little bit of experience with it so far. For those watching who maybe don't know what connectors are, essentially, they're ways for you to be able to connect your different data sources into your basically your AI engine to be able to start, using the knowledge that you have in there, live, current, everything else, to help make decisions and to search through information, kind of, etc. So that's the theory, and then there's kind of the reality. So I know where everyone's had a little bit of experience with these as they are in the news. And Tom, maybe we'll start with you, kind of what you were, doing with HubSpot and what you've discovered. And yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So, HubSpot, announced that they rolled out this connector with ChatGPT, and I got all excited because we're a pretty power HubSpot user, and they had their marketing video that basically showed you can take your data and it can create this active list, and it can enroll them in sequences, and it can segment, it can do all these things, and I was really excited about it. And I know it's in beta, but I did test it out, and I think it's got a lot of potential. It's really kind of narrowing the gap between someone that doesn't know anything about HubSpot and someone that does. So it will basically walk you through, in detail, the creation of certain, lists or reports, and but it falls short, and maybe they'll correct this as it goes forward, of actually using your actual data. The first thing that it I said, hey, create this list for me of all the current customers that we haven't had a connected call with in the last 90 days, and it said, well, I can't do that because I don't have your list of connected customers. And I was like, well, I just connected with you, so I think you should have that. But I understand it's all in beta, but it's pretty exciting. Like I said, if for any HubSpot kind of geeks or nerds out there, it kind of levels the playing field if you don't know how to, segment inside of HubSpot or create certain basic reports, and we'll walk you through how to do it with screenshots, and it's pretty cool. So that's my initial experience with HubSpot and AI connectors.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that there's still some value in it, right? That you've just had to discover which pieces of it actually are valuable, right? And I can remember when we first talked about it, also looking at the deep research capability within ChatGPT to be able to dig out some, other things. And it's not intuitive. They don't tell you got to use that, right?
Yeah,
it's going to make a difference, but there it is. And Randy, you've had a little experience with that one as well, I think.
Yeah, I've been playing with it in HubSpot as well as Microsoft Outlook and now Teams. In HubSpot, yeah, it was a little wonky at first. We have a challenge of trying to find project ID numbers and things like that, and that's a very specific field that we put into HubSpot for our needs and purposes. And it just couldn't find that field name for some reason, and or that object. So, yeah, it wasn't working as well as I thought it would, but. For the others, it was working great. So I actually did use it in Teams also. And we have a weekly meeting that we record for our analysts and sales where we do trainings and things like that. And I wanted to just summarize all the meetings that we've had, because they are weekly and there are a lot of them. And, for people who have missed the meetings, they want to see what we've done instead of having to go through the entire, transcript of all these things. And it did a really fantastic job of summarizing. So kudos to the Teams connector.
Yeah. I agree. I did the same thing with, obviously, as you know, I'm not a Microsoft, user, and much to Randy's consternation, he keeps trying to get me to use an actual, Microsoft email account with Keypoint. I'm a Google guy, and I obviously have Drive and Google Calendar and everything else. And I did the same thing, right? And so I've got it structured now, trying to figure out how to do a weekly automation for that very thing. So summary of the, the past meetings or whatever, right? And so with OEM Connect, for example, what were the things that we worked on in the last 2 weeks, and what are the upcoming meetings, and what are some of the things that are happening, right? And I do find it actually really good, Randy, like to your experience, really good for that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the difference is. I don't know, John. Any thoughts? Like, why would you figure at that versus this very specific code that Randy or Tom are looking for in HubSpot?
Well, I think generally, though, in this space with connections, like the thing that you have to kind of focus in on is the rise of MCP over the last 6 months or so.
Yeah.
So just for context, like MCP is a protocol or a standard that was initiated by Anthropic, and I think it was in November of last year, right? So you're going to see more things in this space get bigger, specifically because MCP or model context protocol, right? It's supposed to ease the way in which these integrations are done, like a more standard way for LLMs to communicate with other systems and to be able to get data and move it into, as it says in the title, the appropriate context for the LLM to run, right? So there's going to be a rush to market, right? A rush to market to make sure MCP gets used across all these different spaces. A lot of that rush is going to ignore two key things. Key thing one being security, and key thing two being how well does it actually work when it pulls that context back into the space. But in that same rhythm, right, we've seen this across a whole bunch of different things across 24 months of AI development. There's these hype crash cycles that are just constantly running, where MCP gets hyped, all the connectors come in, then we crash because everyone's like, they're not doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and then they walk away. But looking for that sort of plateau where it actually becomes functional technology, where security is understood, where usability of data back into these systems is actually flourishing, right? I don't think we're far from that particular
I agree. Yeah. And we have to try, right? I mean, that we've learned through this whole thing is that the ability. I can remember when the term prompt engineering first came out, and people would try very rudimentary prompt. And Randy, you and I have had talks about this, and actually, Tom, in some of your projects, we've worked on it as well, right? Like actually bolstering, prompts and the work that it takes, and kind of the framework and the context and everything else.
Yeah.
And it is still, partially on us to be good at that, right? And to learn how to be good at that, to kind of milk the machine, right? And people say, well, AI should do that, and I go, well. Excel, just because you have Excel doesn't mean that you're going to be a master, Excel, right? Like, I think I'm pretty good, like compared to my partner in the business and my wife, Leslie. Like I know I'm better at Excel, but then I work with somebody else who can do a macro on the fly and, kind of build these sheets in time. I'm sure you probably can, right?
Yeah.
I can't. And how long is Microsoft Excel been out, right? So
Yeah.
I would just throw that
exactly.
out there for people is don't expect it to do everything. Expect it to do 70% or 80% and understand that you're going to have to do some lift, right? So anyways.
It's always interesting to me too, like the expectations that people have around particular tool sets, right? Like the sort of division between people who are hesitant to want to connect or use anything in an AI space. The other side of that is the people who are eagerly asking for every possible aspect of a task to be automated, and if it doesn't hit that particular benchmark, then I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
Like it's a strange mindset of don't touch it, or touch it but only if it does everything that I need it to do all the time. But I think that the underlying, the sort of the baseline is, if you're going to use AI tools, right, in general, the thought that you put into what's happening inside the ecosystem, which should involve other kinds of context being pulled in from other places, like that's the real sort of pivotal moment for you, is not the adoption of a tool, but the understanding of how to work with the tool to assist you in an overall structure of what it is that you're doing, right? So that the dream of like, I make a connection and it does everything that I wanted it to do, like that's always going to be a dream to some extent, right? We'll probably push that line of where that dream comes from, or where that dream sort of like where that future state lives. But I think people are always going to be asking for more, when really like we have some incredibly smart tools, some fairly decent connections, and if you make some effort into how you think about your processes and think about your work and intersect it with these things, then suddenly you have a completely different world.
It is going to get better too, as time goes on with AI, as we know, that even prompting used to be a little bit more difficult, where you had to actually teach everything as if, ChatGPT was a 5-year-old. Now it's gotten to the point where it's, a senior in high school, and then eventually it'll be, someone in college. And that's what they're saying. It's just, going to get better no matter what. So, and you just have to keep testing it, every couple of months to make sure and see whether or not it's getting better. That's what we do constantly.
And it has gotten better. Like I cannot imagine a day where AI isn't having significant positive impact on something I'm doing for work, right? And but you said something, John, and it was like, we have to be curious, right? That you really have that mindset where we're doing that, and everyone on this call obviously is, because they're obviously engaged in some some pretty serious AI initiatives, right? So
I think it's kind of oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom. No, you finish it.
I was gonna just add in, and I think it's because he mentioned that there's a subset of people that don't want to touch or do anything, and then there's that opposite end of the spectrum where if it doesn't do everything, they don't want to touch it. And I think it's kind of a phenomenon, because for both of those sets of people, because they view it as either a magic pill or a red pill, and it's, they assume that it's going to either take their job, do everything that they're supposed to do, and or the other side is like, if it doesn't, then I don't want to touch it. And I think it's just interesting that because of the assumption of what AI is, it just kind of affects people in different ways, and if you're involved in it day to day, you do come to know that it does take 20, 25%, 30% human oversight and interaction, and really the traditional work that we're used to doing, it just helps you kind of do it. So it's just an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's a great way to bring it out, right? That it's kind of like the three bears, right? The red pill versus the take away all our jobs. And we do have to find that happy median, because one of the things I also share with people when I'm having this conversation is it's not going away. Like AI in our lives and in our businesses, it's not like you can't just sort of say, I'm not going to use it, whatever. It's going to be in the things that you are using, and I would argue that you should be educated in how it works and what it does and what it doesn't do, and those kind of things. Where there's no escaping AI in 2025 or All right.
And so I would just say, just play with it and be curious. I'm always excited to see what comes up after I prompt something, and it's just amazing the quality that's improved over time, that it's gotten so much better. So Yeah, when it pops up and gives me the entire thing in the deep research, and deep research does take a little bit longer. I'm like, I can't wait till this is finished. And then,
I know, right? It's actually, yeah, you get that anticipation. I love it. I just absolutely love it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've gotten really comfortable with the idea that I'm going to kick off some deep research project and then I'm going to go do other things at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. That hasn't happened yet. Oh my god.
That space to me though is absolutely intriguing. Like that's really the spot where people need to kind of tune their brains up, right? Is the idea of inside deep research, what is happening in that particular space in the background is so interesting and so much value in that particular space. But we've come to see tools as transactional. We've come to think of these things as like, I put a coin in a vending machine and I get candy, right? Like,
Right.
If you really like, if you've incorporated these things into workflows in such a way that these are thinking partners, right? Like that distance to me, the longer that distance gets, that makes the output be more thorough, more researched, like more tuned to what it is I was trying to do. I go take a day, like go off AI, take a day, do what you need to do, come back with the best possible thing, like that. I'm fine with that. But I think that space right now is really interesting because of how all this technology was immediately pitched as like intelligence on tap, ask a question, get an answer, and move on to the next thing. This is more like, hey, here's an entire packet of information. I need you to go to the library and read 1,500 books and come back to me and tell me
In
how.
seconds.
Yeah, right. So like, I'm comfortable. Go off, do that work. Just give me the best possible output.
What I find
it's unbelievable. So one of the clients that I work with is actually basically in the medical space, and they have to deal with insurance companies to get stuff approved to be able to do what they do, right? And one of the things, obviously, I have like zero background in what the Medicaid and Medicare codes look like, what the different things are, how things can get rejected and everything else. But guess what? Deep research can do all of that. And it did. And then working with a subject matter expert, like taking that deep research to them and saying, what do you think? Bunk, is there, what is it? And to see the jaw drop and go, oh my God, that's like that 30 pages condensed like everything that I've got in 16 different folders, right? Like it's, kind of that, like when someone sees that, to your point, that deep research capability and what it's capable of producing, good grief. I think I have 24 a month and then I use them up. And then Leslie, my partner, she's got another 24. And so we're constantly, chewing through them, right? Both for our clients and for ourselves, right? So, yeah. Anyways, that's a good topic for another episode.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, sorry. Are you kidding? It's one of the biggest improvements in kind of, I guess, the foundation model AI, if you will, that there's been. It's
I also think the reasoning capabilities in ChatGPT and actually seeing it, tell you what it's actually doing on the side is really, really cool. I mean, it's really thinking, which is fascinating. It's like, and that it can do it that quickly, and I can't even think and reason that quickly, and it's pretty cool.
I love once in a while how you see you can watch its reasoning and it says, "Oops, that didn't work."
Yeah,
trying a different approach. Like it actually says things like, "Oops."
Exactly. It's crazy. I mean, it really sounds like a human, right?
I'll show you this integration, and so as you know, I love camping on the weekends, and John and I have talked about this because he's a birder, right? And we'd actually started with some birding stuff at the beginning and using some of that. I used an application that John got me onto, which was Merlin, to be able to recognize the sounds. And then I used ChatGPT to try and figure out, you remember we were talking about thrushes and robins, like are they used AI to figure that out, right? So my family and I, I keep a YouTube channel for our videos, which is kind of, whatever. How many subscribers now? A whopping 206, right? And that's so we're not getting famous or switching our lives. That being said,
make it 207 here.
All right. I appreciate you, John, and Tom. Thanks for joining as well.
Yeah, 208.
I'm doing the same thing too right now.
I love it. But what it got me to thinking, the reason I brought that up is not because I'm trying to show off the channel, but that Custom GPT, which is a group that both Randy and I work with. They do some really nice RAG, engines, right? And one of the integrations that they've come up with now is with YouTube. So to actually go through the videos and, pull out different bits of information. So having something like this to be able to, if you're watching a video, let's say it's an educational video or a YouTube video, and to be able to talk with it further, right? What is, bug situation like at I don't know, Arrowhead or whatever, right? Now, this is where, as we talked about earlier, that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, right? Because this is not built on a RAG model. So to date, because this is, I think, as far as I understand it, connector based so far, right? But in the video featuring Arrowhead Provincial Park, Wolfman and Leslie mentioned that mosquito situation was surprisingly mild, although the forecast predicted a high presence of mosquitoes. Huh. All right. So where would I see that? So again, one thing I really like about this is the reference ability to actually be able to go to wherever the video is that it got the got the answer, right? So I think that's kind of powerful. I'm not sure if anyone on the call has experienced something like that yet with these connectors for video versus just text, right? So is that
quick too? I mean, imagining having to actually watch the video, transcribe the voiceover, and it's pretty amazing how fast it actually gave you that response.
It was pretty quick, wasn't it? So again, I'm not sure what kind of magic they're doing in the background, but I'd be curious in the comments and from other folks that are starting to use more of these connectors. First for kind of our unstructured data. And now, for like really unstructured data, like video, actually being able to go into the videos, put that stuff out, right? So, if anyone else,
there's a bunch of information that's locked in, however many millions of hours a day that are watched on YouTube, right? The being able to unlock that, I think, is phenomenal. Like right now, part of my workflow in those spaces where I need that information is literally a copy and paste of a transcript to get it into the overall architecture I'm working with. So it would be fantastic if that functionality makes its way out into the major market LLM space. Like that would be.
I remember going to a conference about 15 years ago, and Adobe was talking about being able to analyze videos and stuff like that, and they were struggling doing it 15 years ago, and now it's like, holy cow, it's working and it's happening.
Yeah, it's funny. I do work with another partner that has a huge repository of videos, right, for like their service techs and other people. And at John, to your point, it was kind of my response. It's like, well, if we can rip out the transcripts, we can make it useful.
Yeah.
But what if we didn't have to do that? Like, what if?
Exactly.
Here's a site map. Here's the videos. It's going to go in and do that. So I'm with you. Like,
and that's part of where I think this connector space, even in the idea of adding context, like that to me is the best piece, where it's not the one-off transaction where I need like to know specifically what's happening in that YouTube video. For me, it's like what's happening in that YouTube video that corresponds to these 12 other things and these 6 transcripts from these phone calls. How do I put all of that into the same space?
Yeah.
And right now my workflow is again like grabbing and storing and building, right? Like to get all these things together. The more that gets smoothed out, then the closer, I'm shooting for that particular pie in the sky space where it is going and gathering all of those things for me. I'm pointing it in that direction. I'm not context switching between things to make it all work. Like that would be a big lift there.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm going to switch gears now and really talk about some human scale stuff here, right? And you've all been on the show, so kind of looking back in the Wayback Machine, if you will. And what inspired you to get in, like to get into AI? What was that thing that you saw that said, okay, I think I need to be able to look at this? And Tom, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hate to answer a question with a question, but I asked the audience, is like, well, what inspired you to start using the internet? I mean, it's like it's kind of that simple. Is like everyone sees we're all on LinkedIn and we watch the news and we see what's going on, and it's like, yeah, we kind of need to learn about it. We need to get into it, and certain technologies work out, certain technologies don't. But that was basically kind of what inspired me, is just like, I think we need to, for lack of better words.
I love it.
Yeah.
I like the reference too back because as John had mentioned, and even myself, John, I think we've spoken about this before. I started working for PSINet back in the early days of the internet as my first kind of professional job, I guess. And at that time, it like Tom, exactly what you just said. I was like, well, why wouldn't you do this, right? Like, why wouldn't you like start using email and why wouldn't you start listing your stuff on the web and just that kind of thing? But there was a whole lot of what do I need that for? I've got the yellow
Sure.
pages, or I know how to pick up a phone and call someone, right?
Yeah.
So John, what was your kind of, the thing, the aha?
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's kind of a similar story where if we go back to that sort of early .com days, right? And I think about emerging technology, like this is really where I kind of fell in love with the intersection of technology and, human behavior and people. Like that's the point, and the thing that I saw was like, oh, look at how this kind of technology can change lives. And then look at all the ways in which we can help direct it so that it doesn't ruin lives, right? Like all of those pieces. So like with that mindset, bringing it into the overall aha moment, right? Like watching the early days of ChatGPT 3.5, connecting it to what I kind of already understood about some of the research, and then getting in the rooms with like-minded people to just sort of explore that kind of technology. Like my confidant in this journey here, Chris Kukla, like he and I sat down in very early days, and we were just like, what is this doing, and how is it doing it, and why is it relevant? And before I knew it, it was like, oh, there's gasoline on a whole bunch of intellectual curiosity that pushed us in that direction. And after that, like, it honestly hasn't stopped.
No.
Like, we've just been engaged in a continuation of that conversation for 2.5 years, like it's just, it's exciting to watch technology emerge and form. And this space has really changed the entire way that is done. It is so fast, and there's so much power in what's happening in this space that we have to protect that intersection of where humans sit at technology. And it touches all of the things I find interesting about being an alive human being.
Right. So. I completely agree. Amen, brother.
Yeah.
And what about you, Randy? What kind of got you in this, right? We've known each other for a lot of years.
Oh, yeah.
You, like me, have not been in AI your whole life, like none of us on the call, right? So what was it for you?
Well, it's actually interesting. Back in 2011, I read this article in Time magazine called The Singularity. It's basically Kurzweil's prediction of when machines are going to take over, humans. His prediction's 2045, and not that, machines are going to take over human, interactions and things like that. But I think that the machine is going to get smarter than humans even before then, to be honest with you. Not that it's going to take over. Yeah, thanks. But even like things in the video aspects that are actually changing today that have gotten so much better. And it's incredible how far it's gotten over the past, like, even 6 months, So, it's just becoming so much smarter, learning so much faster. And yeah, that particular article kind of scared me, and it also got me really intrigued of, okay, how is this all going to happen?
I love it. Yeah, and I guess finally for me, I mean, what did it for me when I first started, seeing some of the early iterations of ChatGPT, like the 3.5, it dawned on me very quickly, that the things that I'm not good at, it was very good at, and stuff I didn't have a solution for it before, right? And so that when I was asking it to summarize this or to pull 6 things together, or whatever, it was just so incredible at that. And yeah, I was hallucinating a lot. It was trying to, I look at hallucinations actually less about lying and more about trying to satisfy, right? In other words,
oh yeah,
it's kind of like, I want so badly to give you an answer. And although that was happening, it was like, wow, I was there for the birth of when we had access to the information outside of a library, right? And how powerful that was to be able to have access to information. And AI gives us now this usability of information because we have so much stuff. Like, how do you access it? How do you get through the sponsored content? How do you find anything anymore in an ocean of creators? And and AI, very, very early on, even those early models, you could see that it was capable of that, right? So that's kind of what blew me away. And now maybe a harder question. So that's kind of a trip in the Wayback Machine. And certainly anyone that's watching, if you have a comment about what kind of got you started or inspired, or not inspired, right? That if you do have a contrary view, we're not against those either, right? But maybe we'll shift gears now into, okay, here we are all this time later. So what are maybe some of the initiatives that you're most excited about? Some of the things that are coming down the pipe that you've seen. And it's fun because we've kind of talked a little bit onto it, looking at kind of the deep research capability, looking at these connectors. But what about you? And maybe, Tom, we'll start with you. What
Sure.
are you looking at that's kind of like, wow, that could be really cool?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll talk about something that 6 months ago, whenever it was that we met, we were kind of getting started with that we're doing internally, and it's just we're an organization that does a lot of outbound and specifically phone calls, and we have thousands of phone call recordings that we're feeding into HubSpot, and we have a module that is analyzing the calls, and not just analyzing, not just summarizing the call, but
Right.
trying to grade, did the rep perform well on this call, and what type of call was it, and then training it on what the positive outcomes would look like, and not only that, but of course trying to grade the leads and everything, and bringing that right back into HubSpot. And it's been a work in progress. There's a lot that we keep on having to teach it and tweak and everything, but if we were going to be sitting here, or someone on my team is going to be sitting here trying to sift through that sheer amount of calls and provide one-on-one coaching, it's a tall task. So I'm still I'm even more excited about it than I was when we started, because now I'm actually seeing some of the results and trying to make it better. But that's the biggest one for me.
Well, and I think Tom's a good example of how you have to kind of have that patience and stick-to-itiveness, because obviously there's been a lot of revisions and refinements to the prompts and how we get things out, and and all those things, right? And sort of hats off to you for having that kind of that mindset where that it's no, let's just fine tune a little further, let's go there.
Yeah, it goes back to not being a magic pill. It's like there's going to be work that's got to be done to make it what you hope to achieve. And
I agree. I think it's one of the most exciting uses I've seen for salespeople, right? Because I've been in sales. I think we're all in sales. Just some of us actually have a title, right? Someone said that to me once, and it rings true. And that the hardest thing is not necessarily understanding that we want to find the good and what could be done better and anything else, but the time to do that, right? Like, what kind of time do you have to mentor a rep? How does it feel if it's a person versus an AI when they're actually being scored and ranked and everything else? And I can tell you what, when AI criticizes me, I don't get, kind of hurt or think, are they going to tell friends, or you know what I mean? It's a different thing. So I love that example.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no social death tied up in the criticism of an AI tool.
And AI doesn't have emotions yet either. So you
right.
You won't be disappointed if you actually say, I'm sorry or anything.
So I love that example. And what about you, John? What are you looking at? That's kind of the...
So yeah, there's a couple of different things. There's some things that are on the frontier sort of major market, and then there's things that we have our hands in that we're really working toward, right? And in the things we're working toward right now, like my team is deep into building a platform that's going to kind of really change the way we do some consultative engagements here at Impact Networking, right? So we have a code name for the project. We call it Elevate, but the entire idea is intended to help people, right? It's intended to help people in the consultative space pull in and create context around customer engagements, and then really synthesize data in the appropriate way to give the kinds of recommendations that will help transform businesses in this space. There's a lot of mechanics to what's happening in there. There's a lot of things we've learned about from what it means to have AI facilitated conversations to what is domain expertise, like how do humans want to be in the loop of that. My team and I went to Wharton Business School a couple of weeks ago and attended a conference there around the AI and the future of work. Really distilled a lot of findings from that into some best practices for what we're putting together from a platform perspective. But yeah, that is super exciting. Here, the initiatives that we're working on at large, though, I see an increasing movement toward people considering their own thinking, and their thinking as it can be augmented by the use of these sorts of tools, right? So a friend of mine is building a platform called Charm IQ. This guy Rob, total genius. His platform is really designed to allow people to think in a canvas space that's AI enabled, that uses all of the context, that understands like this sort of complete picture around what's happening, and we really think of it when we dig into that as sort of a what we like to call thought architecture, right? Like how can I actually plan what it is that I'm thinking and how I'm thinking to be able to use assets and tools. And I'm really excited that some of the narrative around AI seems to be moving more toward augmentation of process to be smarter and less about sort of overall efficiency and replacement. So that's like, that is a piece I'm really looking forward to coalescing out in the world. So
I love it. Yeah, I think they should change the acronym. I've always said this, that it shouldn't be artificial intelligence. It should probably be augmented intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Like, something that's there to help us to, use our intelligence more.
Yeah.
Yeah, some beautiful examples of just the power, and like you said, of bringing all that stuff together, and the considerations too, right? Like how much work it actually takes to get that kind of context that you're looking for as you're building.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Huge.
What about you, Randy? Looking out into the into the ethos, what AI technology or thing are you most excited to see?
Well, what we're doing currently is a couple of different things. I'm building, as you know, a whole bunch of GBTs and really helping out both our internal salespeople as well as, for our clients that want to actually use GPTs out there, from building playbooks to the sequences that we talked about earlier. For HubSpot, but you also know that we're playing a lot with custom GPT, and we've ingested our entire database of our info center side, which is all the analyst forecasts and research and white papers and all that stuff, years of content and information to be able to search from, for us to be able to offer that to our customers as a chatbot and asking, ask the analyst whatever you want to know of what's happened out there in the in our industry. So that's actually really exciting. But what's really intrigued me, as I said before, is the video stuff that's gotten so much better.
Yeah.
And, HeyGen was the first one that we played with. West, and which is fantastic. But now, like every single platform, has the capability of lip syncing, and it's gotten so much better. And even the interactions with people and stuff like that it's incredible inside those videos, and what can actually.
Randy, have you seen their implementation of sort of RAG model into avatar-based conversation?
Yes, yeah.
Like that, yep. I saw that at a conference in March, and I was like, "Oh man,
yeah." I know that we're trying to build something like that too. West built something, and not quite fast enough yet, but it's there real quickly.
It was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But that video, the sort of generative video angle of that too, I think there's like a thing people are kind of missing in the thought process of like very rapid, accurate video generation. We think of it from the perspective of entertainment a lot, like how, or how can we build marketing, or how can we build entertainment that's sort of bespoke to an audience, very specific, very personalized, right? But I'm sure all of us on this call spend a whole bunch of time meddling around with PowerPoints, right? The way we present data to people. And when you start to think of the intersection of very rapid generated video, and you start to think to yourself like, oh, why would I need to generate a PowerPoint when what I can actually make is a movie clip that's based on data that I've put together, right? Yep. And as that thought continues, you continue to explore it, then it becomes like, well, what's the presentation I need to show to West right now as opposed to Tom? Yeah, right. And how can I gauge Tom's attention through something to make sure that like I'm showing Tom the thing he needs to see and allowing him to dive in where he needs to dive, and put that all together into the soup of generated video at scale very rapidly. And suddenly you have a space where like PowerPoint is no longer a way to actually convey information, right? Like that sort of horizon for me is like, I would love those paradigms to be destroyed and for people to start thinking about information differently in that way.
Do you remember an application called Prezi?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
I loved it because at least it had a certain sense of, I guess, interactiveness, or at least a spatial feel, right?
Exactly.
And if AI can move that to, like you said, just creating that custom, basically instead of PowerPoints, just like you said, movies of the information that we're trying to share, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
my goodness, can you imagine that? Like everything would be a TED talk. You wouldn't even have to be up there.
Yeah,
Just
I would love it.
every
I
presentation
would love it.
you ever give again would be a TED talk. I love it.
Yeah.
I'll say,
idea.
I'll jump in with one of the things that I'm excited about, for AI in the future is actually seeing it take away pieces of work that are important, but really time consuming, right? And when I say that, because oftentimes when we talk about AI, it's like, yeah, it'll take away busy work or menial work. And it's like, well, there's a lot of work that we do, which is really, really important, but it is so intensive. Like it's so manual. It's so, even if we have tools in place, right, that it just takes up so much time. And that, again, we have a top secret tool, which we're working on too, called Excalibur. I won't talk about it too much, but it takes away some of that work for me, and I hope it does for other people as well, right? And to that point, when you can actually still ask those hard questions, get the information that you need, do the work without having to have the labor behind it. That's for me is just the way that I work. It's not that I'm always looking to try and find a lazier way out, but it's just a more efficient way, right? Like I know that's important and I do it, but I don't want to do it, and I don't think anybody does, right? So for me, when I look to the future of AI, that's the real thing. Is I think people are starting to get it, that it's not about replacing them. It's about what piece of work do I just really, I know is important, I don't want to do, needs to get done better, and how can it be taken care of? And all of these things that we've talked about are driving towards that, right?
Yeah.
I believe in my heart, in my AI heart of hearts.
And it's definitely helped me out, even just the writing aspect of being able to, be a better writer than I can write. And it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And actually, it's fun. Greg did throw this one out. I've been posting Greg's comments as well. And but what about a world without applications, right? Like when, again, forget about presentations. What about applications? Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, really, really nice. I like that. All right. So this one, we're going to shift gears a little bit. And what's been hard, like with AI, what's been hard? And maybe Tom, as we're just going around the circle, I'll get you to start there.
Sure. I think it's just, because I was very, very new to, experimenting with AI, and, it's just getting over that kind of mindset of that, well, I'm going to just tell it what I want it to do and it's going to just do it. And, it's not that. I don't think it will be that, even if it gets smarter and smarter and smarter. I still think there's going to be some level of, real human interaction and work that needs to be applied to do the things that you want it to do. So, hard, maybe not the right word, but I just, maybe it was a little bit unexpected, I guess. It was kind of like, behind the veil, like looking behind the veil and seeing, but it makes me feel better about, a lot of the opinions out there that, like when someone tells me that like AI is going to take over the world, or, there's not going to be any human to human interaction. Like I just kind of laugh at that now, because I really don't think that's the case. Maybe I'm way off base. Maybe 10, 20 years from now, maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't feel that way. And maybe that's just been the hardest thing is, understanding the work, the manual human work and effort that needs to go into having it achieve what you want it to achieve.
Yeah, I love that you say that though, Tom, is that, it's like, you say, well, maybe it's not even hard, but it's just that understanding, that appreciation of it being a little different, right? And I also love the fact that you're educated now in a sense, right? That when you're hearing other people talk out of ignorance when it comes to AI, that you're like, you can shrug your shoulders and say, that's not my lived experience. That's not what we've experienced, right? And I think that's so profound, just to hear that, right? And that could be, I've got another question coming up, which that might tie into, but we'll save it. So what about you, John? What have you found that's just been hard, or different?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think there's some fundamental things about the way people in systems in general deal with disruption or transformation, and those things didn't go away because the technology is really cool. Like change management issues, things around adoption, acceptance. Those are the problems that have existed inside business process efficiency space for as long as I've been in it, right? And that's why, I keep stressing this idea of like how people think inside of these processes. That's part of like the opportunity that we have in this space to take that hard thing and make it a little bit easier, in that, if we don't focus so much on sort of a efficiency and replacement, but yet focus more on that intersection where, like Wes, you were talking about the things that are important, but actually, actually need to be offloaded to something else. Like, but they need human oversight. They need interaction. Like figuring out how you target those sorts of tasks and make people's lives better at what they're in the jobs that they do. Right.
Amen.
Like that to me is the challenge that we have. But for the first time in as long as I can remember in this space, we actually have that opportunity. Right. A lot of the business process efficiency and automation dreams that we've had over the last 20 plus years are possible now. So, that to me is hard. All of the foundational things around change management, adoption, but we have a shot. So we should.
I love it. I love it that it's what's hard is the humanity.
Yeah. It's hard as the people.
Yeah, the human reaction. I love it. And Randy, what about you? What have you found hard, about this whole AI thing, or challenging, or just outright crazy?
Well, one of the things that you also worked on with us too was just analyzing research data in a spreadsheet, basically. So we get all of our basically all the survey responses that are multiple choice all in one big spreadsheet. That's a pretty flat file, and some of that information is a little bit deeper because we ask questions that lead to other questions that are related to other questions. So originally, I just wanted it to analyze the spreadsheet and give me any insights that you got from that. But it's, you know what your outcome is, but you actually have to get to the prompting of the steps to get to that outcome. And I wish that AI could just take what I know what I want and be able to do what I'm thinking. And then just having to re-engineer it in prompting to say, okay, you have to look at these very, very carefully. Looking at the top line, which are all the different fields and stuff like that, and be able to train it that way. And that's kind of that re-engineering and rethinking of how you would do it manually is probably the hardest thing for people to actually be able to prompt and things like that. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. But again, I think that with the reasoning capabilities with AI and being able to think more human-like we do, it might actually prompt us to actually get to those better prompts to actually analyze that data. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my turn. Hard. I think what's been hard is kind of, this idea that we haven't really landed on the best use cases for for AI in the best situations, right? And so, and I'll give you an example because I know that's a bit fuzzy, but when I'm using ChatGPT, which model should I use? Should it be 4.0? Should it be the advanced reasoning? Like we still have those selection criteria, and we're just not built for that. So for me, that's been hard because when I'm trying to train people on how to best use that application, I'm talking about, sort of the every person scenario, right? Because every person is probably using some kind of chatbot to do something. So one is just how unintuitive it still is for the right model framework. The second piece of that is getting past the bias of people saying, and I'm going to upset some people out there, but saying, for example, well, we're a Microsoft house, so we have to use this. Or we're a marketing department, we're working on Macs, and we need to use Claude, right? Like that sometimes there are these things of these camps, and they say, well, I think you should use them all. Like here's where sometimes it's better for this, here's where that one's better for this, and everything else, right? So for me in the business I'm in, that's the hard part. And it's kind of funny because I see the common thread that comes back. I think everyone's mentioned so far that the human element has been hard.
Yeah.
Here we are talking about AI, right?
Yep.
Oh, I love it. All right. Okay. In respect for people's time, we got about 6 minutes left. And I think it's probably a good time to talk the advice section, right? So there are going to be a bunch of folks that are watching this live or are going to see this afterwards. And they're going to be looking for that one piece of advice. And I know I call it the impossible question, right? Because how on earth can you give, someone one piece of advice? But maybe between 5 of us on the call today, we'll each have something a little different. So, Tom, what about you? If you had one piece of advice?
I'd kind of go back to what I said before about like what influenced me, like what influenced you to start using the internet, what influenced you to start using, online banking rather than just, going to the don't be afraid don't be afraid of it. I would say is the number one piece of advice. Like anything else in your life that you've learned, or anything else in your life that has changed, or any piece of technology, the things that we've seen, culturally, change is the only inevitable. So it's clearly here, and that's my biggest piece of advice is just, don't be afraid. It's not that scary.
I love it. And the banking is a good example, right? Because
Yeah.
how many times were people afraid of using a bank machine?
Yep.
And here we are.
Yep.
How about you, John?
Yeah, I mean, as simply as I can think of it, be intellectually curious. Like, get in front of the things, use them, think about what's actually happening, right? Like, be curious.
Yep.
That's my tagline. You just stole it from me, John.
The core value of our company too. It's really the key to a lot.
You have to find it.
Be curious.
Yeah.
That was gonna be mine. Sorry.
Well, don't be sorry at all. Continue on that theme, Randy. So,
well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, definitely be curious, but at the same time, to also be cautious. Make sure you're using, the right versions of the RAG models that you're, so you're not actually putting your own information out there that other people will have access to. And again, also, kind of make sure you have the right policies in place in your organization. Because that's really important too, and everyone's kind of adhering to it. It's kind of like the internet too. You can't live without it today. Even at work, I remember, in some of the work policies, you weren't even allowed to go on the internet during work time. But it's almost
right.
Well, and same thing with AI and these RAG models. So just be careful and be curious.
Yeah,
I love it. So we have don't be afraid. We have be curious. Be careful and curious. I think the two of them together, right? If I was going to give anyone watching this one piece of advice, I would say reach out to one of the humans that you're seeing on the show today, right? If it's Tom or John or Randy or myself, and have a conversation around AI, get to know their experience, get to know our experiences with AI. And it doesn't have to be us. It could be anyone in your world that has been doing some significant things, taking some chances and doing some things, right? And I do want to tie it back to that human element, that my one piece of advice is, if you want to humanize AI, talk to some humans that are doing AI. So, right. All right. Well, I cannot thank everyone enough for joining in today for all of those. And I do love just to share Deanna's embrace the change, right? That it is here. And I just love that, that whole idea. So, John, Tom, cannot thank you enough for joining in on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yep, not a problem.
And Randy, as always, so good to be doing the show with you again, brother. To actually reignite this AI flame, AI Connect. Just for those watching, it is not AI Flame, it's AI Connect. And just to let everyone know about our next show, let's see if I can actually do this. No, that's my calendar.
Calendar.
How do I get rid of that? Oh, good grief. There we go. Healing with AI, how Bastion GPT is transforming healthcare conversations. This is really exciting. So I'm actually working with a medical group, and I've had to do different things because obviously ChatGPT and other things, they're not HIPAA compliant. And I've had to, find some solutions. So I was really fortunate to meet this guy named Josh Spencer. He's one of the co-founders of Fortitech. And they've got this really cool application, basically a chat application geared towards the health sector, right? So I've researched a lot of them. This is one that struck me as very, very cool, having some of the functionality that I think is, is necessary, that haven't necessarily either, break the bank or, require thousands of development hours, right? So pretty excited, looking forward to that. July 2nd, 2 weeks from now at 11 a.m. Let's see if I can bring everyone back. Yeah. So once again, can't thank you enough. We do have our taglines at the end of this. And as Randy says, what I always say is, until next time, keep learning. Randy, you always say,
be curious.
Be curious. And what about you, John?
I'm just gonna say, listen to Randy.
Next time, listen to Randy. I love it. And you, Tom?
Don't be afraid. Jump on in.
Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Well, until next time, gang. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Bye.